Before the war that broke a dynasty, before the screams and banners and burning fields, Westeros lived beneath a crown it no longer trusted. For nearly 3 centuries, House Targaryen had ruled the 7 kingdoms by fire and blood. Their dragons were gone, but the memory of them still kept the realm obedient. Until the last Dragon King, Aerys Targaryen, the second of his name, had not always been mad. Once he was charming. Once he laughed easily. Once the lords of Westeros believed he would usher in a golden age. But time, fear, and power rotted him from within, and madness took root where wisdom should have grown. Aerys became obsessed with betrayal. He saw enemies in shadows, plots in whispers, daggers behind every smile. He burned men alive for imagined crimes. He listened to no counsel, and he trusted only fire. The Iron Throne had become a seat of terror. Yet while the king decayed, the realm produced a generation unlike any before. In the Vale, Jon Arryn ruled with quiet strength and ancient honor. In the north, Rickard Stark prepared his children to inherit not crowns, but duty. In Storm's End, a young lord laughed louder than any man alive. Robert Baratheon. He was tall, broad, and impossible to ignore. A warrior born with a warhammer in his soul and thunder in his blood. And beside him, his closest friend, Eddard Stark. Quiet where Robert was loud. Steady where Robert was wild. Bound not by ambition, but by loyalty. They were fostered together in the Vale, under Jon Arryn's watchful eye. 2 boys raised as brothers, unaware they would one day become the axis upon which the realm would turn. And there was a third, a prince, Rhaegar Targaryen. Unlike his father, Rhaegar was solemn, introspective, and distant. He preferred books to banquets, music to politics, prophecy to pleasure. Many believed he would one day save the realm from his father. But even saviors can doom the world by accident. At the great tourney of Harrenhal, the realm gathered in fragile peace. Lords and ladies filled the stands, knights tilted beneath banners bright with pride. Songs echoed across blackened stone. And there, before the eyes of the 7 kingdoms, Prince Rhaegar did something unforgivable. He crowned Lyanna Stark as Northern Girl promised to Robert Baratheon, as Queen of Love and Beauty, not his wife, not a princess of the realm. Lyanna. The moment shattered more than hearts. It shattered balance. Lyanna Stark was not fragile. She was wild as northern snowstorms, fierce as winter winds. She did not want to be a lady bound to courtly smiles, but she never returned home. She vanished, and the realm whispered only one name, Rhaegar. Rickard Stark rode south, demanding justice. His son Brandon rode ahead, angry, reckless, shouting for the prince to face him. The Mad King answered, not with reason, not with mercy. Rickard Stark burned alive in his armor. Brandon strangled himself trying to save him. Father and son died screaming beneath the Red Keep, and with them, the old peace died too. Aerys demanded the heads of Eddard Stark and Robert Baratheon. Jon Arryn refused. In that refusal, war was born. The banners had not yet risen. The swords had not yet been drawn. But the realm had crossed a line from which it could never return. The storm was coming, and no king, mad or sane, would survive it unchanged. When the raven reached the Vale, its message carried a death sentence. King Aerys Targaryen demanded the heads of 2 young men, Eddard Stark and Robert Baratheon, for crimes they had not committed. Jon Arryn read the words slowly. Then he did something no hand, no lord, no vassal had dared do in generations. He tore the letter apart. In that moment, Jon Arryn chose honor over obedience, and rebellion over silence. The veil rose first. Falcons were unfurled, swords were sharpened, oaths long dormant were spoken aloud. Eddard Stark and Robert Baratheon were no longer wards, they were banners. Robert rode for Storm's End, racing ahead of royal justice. Eddard rode north, his heart heavy with grief and purpose. But the crown moved faster. Aerys commanded Jon Connington, his loyal hand, to crush Robert before rebellion could take shape. The hunt had begun. Robert arrived at Storm's End to find his castle surrounded. Jon Connington struck hard and early, trapping Robert between the sea and the crown's armies. For a moment, the rebellion nearly died before it was born. But Robert Baratheon did not flee. He smashed through the encirclement at Summerhall, hammer blazing, roaring like the storm god whose name he bore. Men followed him, not because he wore a crown, but because he could not be ignored. Victory made him dangerous. Across the realm, choices had to be made. Some lords waited, some prayed, some sharpened knives for both sides. And then the North moved. Eddard Stark returned to Winterfell for the first time as a man burdened by ghosts. His father was dead. His brother was dead. The banners of House Stark demanded blood. Ned called his bannermen, and the North answered, slowly, relentlessly, like winter itself. Yet Ned could not march south. Not yet. His sister was still missing, and in King's Landing, the Mad King still breathed. So Ned rode to the Riverlands, seeking allies. And there, fate bound him to another house, forever. House Tully stood at the crossroads of the realm. Their loyalty would decide the war's balance. Lord Hoster Tully agreed to join the rebellion, but not without cost. 2 marriages sealed the pact. Brandon Stark was dead, so Eddard Stark would marry Catelyn Tully in his place, and Jon Arryn would take Catelyn's sister Lysa as his wife. War does not wait for love. While Ned was wed in haste, Robert fought in fury. At Ashford, he faced Rhaegar's chosen knight, Randil Tarly. There, Robert was defeated, wounded, bleeding, forced to flee. For the first time, the rebellion faltered. Robert hid in the town of Stony Sept, concealed by common folk who believed in him more than they feared the crown. Jon Connington searched house to house. He came close, too close. But Robert rose from his sickbed like a man reborn. When the Loyalists found him, they did not find a fugitive. They found a warhammer. The streets ran red, and Jon Connington lost the war in an alley. King Aerys punished failure with exile. Jon Connington fled across the narrow sea, disgraced and broken. The rebellion survived, and now it had momentum. Then the Reach made its choice. House Tyrell declared for the crown. Their armies marched to Storm's End, surrounding it in iron and hunger. Inside the walls, Stannis Baratheon held the castle. No glory, no songs, only duty. He would not surrender. By now, the realm was fully aflame. North, Vale, Riverlands, Stormlands, all in open revolt. But one great house remained silent. One power could still end the war before it truly began. House Lannister. And Tywin Lannister waited. The storm had broken, but the true battle for the throne was yet to come. The war had spread across the 7 kingdoms like wildfire, and at its heart stood one man who could still end it. Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. For months he had been absent, not leading armies, not guarding the realm, not calming his father's madness. He had been chasing prophecy. When Rhaegar finally returned to King's Landing, he found a kingdom already bleeding. Aerys ranted from the Iron Throne. The small folk whispered of rebellion, and the dragons ruled only in name. Rhaegar took command, calm, controlled, certain. If the rebellion was to end, it would end with him. He gathered the loyalist hosts, Dorne, Crownlands, Reachmen still sworn to the throne. And then he marched north, not with hatred, but with destiny on his shoulders. Robert Baratheon marched south. The hammer met the dragon. The armies met beneath a sky heavy with clouds. Steel glinted along the riverbanks. Banners snapped in the wind. On one side, the crowned stag, roaring for vengeance. On the other, the last true dragon, riding beneath rubies and prophecy. This was not just a battle. It was the fate of a dynasty. Rhaegar rode forward first. His armor shimmered red with inset rubies, each one flashing like a drop of blood. He did not shout. He did not boast. He simply waited. Robert saw him and laughed. This was the man who had taken Lyanna Stark, the man who had broken the realm, the man who would die today. They met in the shallow waters of the Trident, hammer against sword, fury against grace. Rhaegar fought like a knight of legend, precise, elegant, relentless. Robert fought like the storm itself. Each blow sent ripples through the river. The sound echoed for miles. Steel rang. Men screamed. Horses reared. But all eyes followed the duel. Rhaegar struck first. His blade cut deep, drawing blood from Robert's chest. For a heartbeat, the realm held its breath. Then Robert roared. The hammer came down. Once. Twice. A final crushing blow shattered armor, bone, and prophecy alike. Rhaegar fell into the river. His rubies scattered across the water like spilled blood. And with him fell the dragon. The loyalist army broke. Some fled. Some died. Some threw down their banners and begged mercy. The Trident ran red. The rebellion had won. But the war was not yet over, because King's Landing still stood, and the Mad King still lived. As Robert lay wounded, victory passed to another man. Eddard Stark rode south, and behind him, Tywin Lannister finally moved. The Lion arrived at King's Landing beneath peaceful banners. The gates were opened. The city trusted him. They should not have. The sack began at once. Lannister's soldiers poured through the streets. Men were butchered. Women screamed. Children burned. The capital fell not to conquest, but betrayal. Inside the Red Keep, Aerys Targaryen lost what little sanity remained. He ordered the city burned, wildfire caches primed, the realm ready to die with him. But Jaime Lannister stood behind him, 17 years old, sword in hand, oath-bound, and awake. When Aerys commanded him to kill his own father, Jaime made his choice. The Mad King never finished his sentence. The Iron Throne was saved by a man history would call Kingslayer, and no one would ever thank him. As the city burned, a darker crime unfolded. Gregor Clegane butchered Elia of Dorne. Her children were smashed against walls. The dragon's bloodline was ended in screams. When Ned Stark arrived, he found corpses presented as gifts. He looked at Robert's victory and felt only horror. Ned confronted Jaime on the throne room floor, a knight seated upon the Iron Throne, a kingdom already poisoned. The rebellion had won, but honor had not. Far to the south, in a lonely tower, another secret waited. A secret of blood and promise. A secret Ned Stark would carry to his grave. The dragon had fallen. The throne was empty. And the price of victory was only beginning to be paid. The war ended not with cheers, but with silence. King's Landing still smoldered. Ash drifted through the streets like falling snow, and the Iron Throne, sharp, twisted, merciless, sat empty. The dragon was dead, but the realm was not healed. Robert Baratheon entered the capital carried on a litter, his wounds still fresh, his victory incomplete. He had won the war he never meant to start, and lost the woman he never stopped loving, Lyanna Stark. While lords celebrated and banners changed hands, Eddard Stark rode south again, not toward glory, but toward a promise. The Tower of Joy stood alone in the red mountains of Dorne. 3 Kingsguard waited beneath its shadow, not to defend a king, not to protect a crown, but to guard a secret. They fought to the last. Steel rang beneath a merciless sun. Honor clashed with duty, and only one man rode away alive. Inside the tower, Ned Stark found Lyanna, dying, broken, still beautiful. She whispered a promise through bloodied lips, a promise heavier than any crown. And Ned swore it. He took the child, wrapped him in silence, and carried him north. The rebellion ended there, not on a battlefield, but in a lie born of love. Back in King's Landing, the new order took shape. Robert Baratheon was crowned king. The realm cheered, but the throne did not love him. Robert ruled with laughter and wine, with feasts instead of justice, with memories instead of vision. The storm that won the crown was never meant to wear it. Beside him stood Cersei Lannister, queen in name, prisoner in truth. Their marriage bound the realm, but poisoned it. 2 lions beneath one roof, both dreaming of different crowns. Jon Arryn became the kingdom's spine, wise, patient, tired. He held the 7 kingdoms together while the king drank and the court rotted. Tywin Lannister returned west, satisfied. The realm whispered of his crimes, but no one dared speak them aloud. Victory had been bought in blood, and blood is easily forgiven when it secures power. Across the narrow sea, 2 children fled beneath foreign skies. Viserys Targaryen burned with hatred. Daenerys remembered nothing but fear. The dragon was gone, but its embers still glowed. Years passed. The war became a story. The story became legend, and the legend became a lie everyone agreed to believe. Robert called it a just war. Ned Stark called it necessary. The realm called it peace, but peace built on secrets does not last, because the rebellion did not end the game. It only changed the players. The Iron Throne waited. The dragons slept, and the promise, whispered in a dying woman's breath, would one day shake the world. Robert's rebellion ended the age of dragons, but it began something far worse, an age of lies, an age of debts unpaid, an age where winter waited patiently.